Close your eyes and picture Jesus. Long flowing hair, pale skin, a perfectly shaped beard. You've seen that face thousands of times. But there's one problem. History gives us a very different picture. None of those famous portraits were painted from life. We have no authenticated image of Jesus made during his lifetime. So to get closer to reality, we have to erase the paintings and investigate his world. Jesus was a Jewish man from Galilee who lived roughly 2,000 years ago under Roman rule. That matters because his appearance would have reflected the people, climate, clothing, and daily life of that region. That makes the pale European Jesus familiar from much Western art historically unlikely. A first-century Galilean would more plausibly have had the complexion and features associated with local Jewish populations of the Eastern Mediterranean. But historians can't simply invent a face. They compare archaeology, ancient art, written evidence, geography, and what we know about other people living in the region. The result isn't a photograph, it's a probability. Then there's the hair. The shoulder-length locks seen in countless paintings aren't something we can establish historically. Reconstructions such as Taylor's instead challenge that familiar Western image and place Jesus firmly within his own culture. And the beard? A beard is plausible, but probably not the immaculate sculpted version of later religious art. Picture something practical and natural on a man traveling constantly through dusty villages. Jesus also wasn't living a comfortable palace life. The Gospels place him walking between communities, and his background was associated with manual work. A lean, physically accustomed body is therefore more plausible than a polished royal appearance. His clothing may surprise you even more. Forget the spotless glowing robes. Ordinary clothing in Roman Judea was practical. Jesus would likely have worn a simple tunic, mantle, and sandals, not the luxurious costume of later paintings. Think rough wool, practical layers, muted natural colors, and garments exposed to dust and travel. Clothing was expensive and valuable. The brilliant white costume in modern imagery tells us more about symbolism than everyday life. Think rough wool, practical layers, muted natural colors, and garments exposed to dust and travel. Clothing was expensive and valuable. The brilliant white costume in modern imagery tells us more about symbolism than everyday life.
The gospel arrest story even describes Judas identifying Jesus to the arresting party with a kiss. That doesn't prove Jesus looked average, but it fits a world where his appearance alone wasn't necessarily enough to identify him.
So where did the Jesus most people recognize come from? Not from a surviving portrait. That doesn't make religious art meaningless. Artists weren't necessarily creating forensic portraits. They were communicating theology, holiness, authority, and beauty. But symbolic art and historical reconstruction answer two very different questions. There is still a limit historians can't cross. We don't know Jesus' exact nose, jawline, eye shape, scars, would-goat wrinkles, or expression. Anyone claiming to show his precise face is going beyond what the surviving evidence can prove. What history can do is narrow the possibilities. Jewish, Galilean, 1st century, living under Roman rule, dressed for his environment. A real man rooted in a specific place, not a figure physically detached from history part of it. And strangely, that historically grounded image can make Jesus feel less distant. Dust on his clothes, sun on his face, tired feet after long roads. Features that connected him visibly to the people and land around him.
Put the clues together, and the most responsible reconstruction is not a single exact face. It's a range.
For centuries, cultures have pictured Jesus through their own artistic traditions. History asks us to do something different, return him to first something differently, and distinguish what evidence suggests from what later imagination created. So next time you see a familiar portrait of Jesus, remember, you're looking at an artistic tradition, not a verified photograph of history. The real face remains unknown, but his world gives us clues. Which version surprised you most?